Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the podcast dedicated to helping you unlock your full potential through the power of mindset. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte, a transformative creator and multi-award-winning trailblazer, as she guides you on a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. With a background in corporate leadership and workforce development, Dr. Alisa has dedicated her career to inspiring individuals to achieve their goals and dreams. Known as the #1 mindset disruptor, she firmly believes that the key to success lies within the mind. Dr. Whyte has witnessed the incredible impact a shift in mindset can have on one's life, career, and relationships. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just beginning your journey of self-discovery, you'll find valuable lessons, inspiring stories, and practical tools to elevate your life. In each episode, Dr. Alisa engages with thought leaders, coaches, and changemakers from around the globe, exploring their journeys and the mindsets that have propelled them to success. Get ready to reframe your perspective, embrace challenges, and cultivate the mindset necessary to achieve your dreams. Now let's dive into today's episode and discover how to master your mindset for a brighter, more fulfilling future. Welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments with your host, Dr. Alisa Whyte, the #1 mindset disruptor and CEO of FEN. In part 2 of our episode with Talia Bombola, certified psychodynamic LMFT and confidence assertiveness specialist, we're diving into the complexities of relationships, personal responsibility, and boundary setting. Dr. Alisa and Talia will unpack how confidence and self-awareness can transform relationship dynamics and open the door to fulfilling partnerships. Whether you're balancing a career with relationship priorities, learning to set boundaries, or simply seeking to understand yourself better, this conversation is filled with strategies and insights to empower you. Let's jump back in.
You've been practicing for the last 20, 30, 40, whatever age you're at. So I just love that, because just yesterday, one of my good friends was saying to me, she's like, how do you know, how are you so good at deciphering in your process of maybe meeting and interacting with men that's not going to work, and you're so good and articulate about it? And I was like, well, my process is this comes up really quick, and that equals that doesn't equal that, and it's quick. We're not a match. I don't need to have I don't have. And so she goes, that's almost like a dude. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. It is the way men think. And I don't know. I feel like doing a lot of testing, personality testing, and all these different things throughout journey. I'm always like, right. I'm always using both sides of my brain, and I'm always balancing. I'm a Libra. So that's the other part. Right. I'm a Libra, right?
Oh my gosh. So am I. I love it.
Exactly. So we're always balanced. Working to balance and bring harmony to the world. Yeah. So it's not, I looked at her and I said, you're absolutely right. I'm pretty sure you are on the money. No one's ever said it that way. That's who I am. And because it makes it easy for me. And I put intentionality and self-awareness. Of course, that became a very easy process. But understand and be gentle with yourself that that's not by default who you are. And you're this loving being who just wants to love and be in love. And that's okay. Now it will come to that other piece of what you talk about, boundaries.
Yes.
Because the boundaries in this assertive, once you're in that space of practicing assertiveness, you now have to go into the place of setting boundaries, which you commented earlier that it is not trying to be the bad guy or keeping people out and only letting certain one in. It is really a mindset and a way of being and doing again. But before we jump into boundaries, let me ask you this, because we can't leave this undone. In both personal and professional settings, assertiveness is absolutely something that's crucial in our lives. How can we develop skills to absolutely, if you give us 1, 2, 3, to develop being assertive in our interactions, and so we get the outcomes we want?
Yes. So this will be, if you practice this enough, it becomes like a heuristic that you use to view the world through. So just with that as the foundation, when you're looking at a certain interaction, there's different skills. So there's interpersonal skills that you can use, there's relationship maintaining skills that you can use, and then there's self-respect skills you can use. The way I teach it coach it and therapize it, if that's a word, is to always, I try not to use that word, but in this case, it matters.
It's necessary.
I always use the self-respect skills. And I can give these as like a freebie if you want to put them in the show notes or what have you, so people can have access to them.
Okay.
Always come from the self-respect realm. Then you're putting the gas pedal down on, do I want to have my objective or goal met more in this interaction, or do I want to maintain the relationship more? And so you decide which wordings, which boundaries to be setting. So I give the example quite often of mail, getting the mail delivered. I don't have a relationship with my mail person. I'm sure they're very nice, but they're different each day from what I've noticed. So that's not, I wouldn't necessarily, let's say my mail was getting delivered late, I'm missing checks, important documents, what have you, and it's all the other ones deliver it great except this one person. I don't have a relationship with that person, so my gas pedal skills are going to be getting the mail delivered on time. And I may double down on that. I may not come across as like nice, quote unquote. Nice is telling people what they want to hear. Kind is telling people what they need to hear.
Yes.
So I will still be kind, but I may not come off as societally, fluffy or feminine, or I don't have my customer service voice on, right?
Here?
Yeah, I'll be like, I have a problem. Here's the solution I've come up with. When the mail gets delivered on this day, and maybe I include and I've noticed it happens to only be on your route, no disrespect, and you can add that because I'm not meaning to be disrespectful.
But
I need my mail on time. Is there a solution that you can think of? Can you leave it at the post office and I can come get it that day, right? Like, I'm not trying to sit there being like, how can I get this mailman to like me or to stay liking me? I'm thinking, how can I get my mail on time? So when you translate this to your interpersonal, your professional relationships, this delineates, do you use the passive aggressive veiled as assertive corporate speak where it's like, I'm not sure if you read this email, but blah, blah, blah. It's like, cut all of that out and just get right to the point. And I have clients who then will get feedback from their superiors of like, we've noticed a tone change in your email. And I have a standard template I tell them to send back because I've done a lot of corporate training too. You cannot infer tone. Like, it's a choice to infer tone through email.
Yes,
unless I am using exclamation points, italics, bold, or other denoting that I'm changing my tone. That is the way you're interpreting it, which is your responsibility. It's not my responsibility. My intent is my responsibility. The impact I could take accountability for if something got lost in translation. However, that's on you for interpreting tone from a text message. This is where all of us in the millennial near category are like, let's make sure to put enough exclamation points because we came from the older generation parenting where they're like, K period. And for us, we're like, oh my God, they're mad at me. And for them, they're like, we're being brief. It's like, what's the intent?
And dot.
The ellipsis, everyone's favorite. It's like this ominous, like, what happened next? They're like, no, I just put it instead of a period or like leaving it.
So that's what I wanted to do. That's our lingo now.
Yeah. Instead of inferring tone, it's more about what is the impact. Okay, I'm hearing they want this directive by this time, whatever.
That's right. That's what I want.
Yes, I can look past the other parts of it. So when you're setting a boundary is also different than enforcing either once or multiple times the boundary. I have clients who can set it. They do their boundary scripts in session. When it comes to enforcing it, that's where all the fear, shame, guilt, judgment, what if they don't like me, fear of abandonment comes up.
Right.
And I say, you have to do it anyway. If we've talked about it enough and you know which one you're clear on, you either do or don't want to maintain the relationship, or you do or don't want a goal met, you have the script. You can text it to them. Even if you're in person, you can say, this relationship means so much to me, or me sharing this with you eloquently means so much to me. I actually took time to write this down. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to get my note out. I'm going to read this, and then we can have a conversation. And it's about having integrity in the sense of like being a person of your word, definition of integrity. If this matters to me, I want to be diligent in how I speak. I don't want to be flippant. And so this is where you could either use your journal, or ChatGPT is also a great one. Let it rewrite what you're wanting for you when your emotion mind is taking over too much and your logic mind won't let you get in the middle to what we call wise mind. Let it help you. Let it rewrite for you, and I'll go, oh, that's a much better way to get the goal met, right? And if you don't want your relationship to maintain, send it flippantly. Like, send your emotional draft, because likely the relationship will not survive. If you want the relationship to survive, send the articulated final draft version that includes both the emotion worded logically and the logic of why you're sharing it. Earlier I experienced this. I felt this way in response. You're taking ownership. I don't want to feel that way about our friendship. I want to feel this way. So the next time this happens, it would make a big impact on how I experience our friendship if you could be on time. What do you need from me for that to happen? What do you need from you for that to happen? Right? We're collaborating because maybe being on time for me, especially with the kid, I'm meeting with somebody else with the kid and we're running late, it's understandable. But if it's like, oh, sorry, we're going to be 30 minutes late, it's like, well, that's her nap time. And then I have to set the bed, like, sorry, we can't go. Like, thank you for letting me know that you're running late. Unfortunately, that bumps up against to whatever wake window or what have you. So we'll have to catch you the next time. Oh, no, it's okay. I'm not looking for an overdone apology. I'm simply sharing information with you. And it's their responsibility to go through their feelings. So there's a specific script, and I'll give that to you for people to download. There's a specific script for people to use with the boundaries, and then having somebody help you sit with the uncomfortable feelings. You probably weren't taught how to do this from your upbringing, so you're learning to do something as an adult, which most people think adults should have it all mastered. So that's one feeling. Then you're doing this new thing for the first time and facing the risk of like, what if people don't like me? That's also where the courage to be disliked comes in. It's like, my goal in setting this boundary isn't to be liked. My goal is whatever,
to be safe,
my self-respect, and to be safe. Exactly.
Quote unquote, for lack of a better word, comfortable.
Right.
And I would say even to have clear vision, because when you're venting and suppressing, because that energy, think about energy too, that energy from that experience that you keep going into or having to be to or whatever, that's again obligatory that and I tell people there's nothing that you're obligated to do, say, or be. You are choosing to obligate yourself to do, say, and be. Please understand the choice. And so I tend, when I've got clients coming in and complaining about something, or a friend even, or a family member, I'm like, well, did you like it? What do you mean? The whole reason I'm talking to you, Alisa, is because I don't like it. I have a hard time believing that. And that's me being a little bit confrontational, because I felt like we've talked about this, we've made a plan, and every time I hear you, you've never taken the plan, like helping them scripting, practicing, going back, doing the work, and they're like avoiding that. And I was like, well, I'm just going to tell you, it just seems like you get uncomfortable with it, but you actually like it, because if you ask me, it doesn't seem the way you're interacting with this person, whether it's their spouse or whatever, is working for you, but it's working for them. And you probably right now like them or being around them at any cost more than you like you.
Yep.
That's what I'm hearing. Oh, you're right. So are you going to do the hard stuff or not? Because that's the choice. Because if you're not, sweetheart, my ears are not here for it.
Yeah.
And that's me setting my boundary.
Exactly.
And
it's not that they can't. Yeah.
Me being in a place where if they don't want to talk to me anymore, I'm fine with it, because now I'm giving emotion, context, and all of the things you just said.
Yeah.
Because now I'm probably just frustrated with you. I'm not angry. I'm very frustrated, and I'm weary with that. It's either you continue to be in the relationship the way it is and just blow over it. And not be bothered with it, or you ask for the change and be willing to accept that person may or may not, and that you will, I call it redefining the relationship.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the relationship might be one where we hang out every weekend, but now it's one we might just be hanging out once every 6 months, or we just talk on the phone and we're just there for each other when we need to support each other, and I'm in and I'm out. And that is necessary sometimes, but I would say it's not fair for you to redefine the terms and condition of a relationship without notifying the person of what you need, and giving them the honest opportunity to do so. And then when they don't, and this really, what we're talking about here goes for
every relationship. Yes. All types. Yeah. Definitely.
You get to renegotiate the terms and conditions.
Yes. And what you're describing too, with the person continuing to participate in a relationship or a system where one part of them is, this isn't for me, but other parts of them are still, like they're in collusion, and they're like, well, we're going to put up with it because this is better than nothing, essentially. And there's a drive. There's functions of behavior. We do things because they feel good. We do things because we get to escape from something or avoid. We do things because we get attention or connection, or we do some things because we get something tangible. So I go to work, I get paid. I love my job, and there's times I do pro bono work or what have you, but I get a paycheck from that, and that is a huge motivator for why I do that behavior.
And sometimes
eventually, eventually, if everybody stopped getting paid for what they did, whether they loved it or not, you wouldn't go to work. Like, you need it to survive, right? So there's a function.
You have to do something else. Because you got to get paid.
Yeah. And so this person who's continuing to participate in that relationship or that system, part of, like, if we're looking at more of the woo-woo, energetic part of it, it's like an existential kink is what it's called. I really don't like that, but there's some part of me that, like, either wishes I could be that way or is punishing myself by being around it. Like, if you learn to think of it like that, you're almost like internalizing it. It's like a kind of a sadomasochistic relationship with whatever the system or person might be. Then you can better understand, and then we complain or voice concern, whatever, politically correct way you want to put it. We complain less to the people around us about what's bothering us because we're now taking responsibility and agency in our life. And it's much different to hear a friend go, do you have 5 minutes to talk? I have a concern about one of the, people I know. I'm in between these two choices. I just need a listening ear to talk through it. Based on what you know about me, could you give me feedback? Is a totally different framework than coming to somebody and being like, can you believe what so-and-so did? Oh my God. And listing all of their negative qualities, not taking a look at any of your responsibility and expecting the other person in return to be like, aren't they such a you-know-what? And you're like, no, like, I mean, in that instance, that wasn't great, but you also could have said this differently. Like, no, we're not talking about me. We're talking about how terrible they are. They try to triangulate you.
I can't talk about them because I'm not having this experience.
And if you have a problem with someone, go to that person. This is also where assertiveness skills comes in, and it helps prevent triangulation, collusion, inappropriate enmeshment when you're looking at family systems. This happens a ton in family systems. So-and-so has a problem with person A, but instead of going to person A, they go to another family member about it, expecting that. It creates more problems because the person who finds out they were being spoken about without their knowledge, aka behind their back, feels they feel confused. Have I ever done anything that let you know you couldn't come to me as a person? Well, no. Then why did you feel the need to go to somebody else when your question was about me and my thoughts? I'm the only one who knows why I do what I do. Other people, it's just conjecture. So it's learning to go, ooh, okay, you're right. I should have come to you with that information and not done a go-between. And many people like, well, I didn't know how you felt about it. Or I didn't know what version of you that I was going to get. I didn't want to feel whatever it might be. I didn't want to feel like I was hurting your feelings or blindsided. So I wanted to double check. And it's like, okay, well, inadvertently now I'm the one feeling how you didn't want to feel. I feel blindsided that you were talking about me behind my back. And so we have to date that next level of self-awareness. I always say, like, text like it's going to court. I send every text message as though, even if it's about another person, that they are reading it. And usually I do not send messages about other people without their knowing. And if I do,
that might be a Libra thing. I don't know.
That's a good rule, though. I think more people could benefit from that rule. I mean, it's much different to be like, hey, so-and-so's birthday's coming up. Like, what's their favorite color is not talking about them behind their back. The definition I'm saying, it's about those boundaries of, if I don't want people talking about me in that way, I will remove access to whatever it might be. I will end the relationship. I'll remove access on LinkedIn or whatever it might be, because then there's no content to be projecting on. And other people are like, well, that's not fair. And it's like, well, if you can't handle me at my this, you don't get all of it. That you choose who gets access to you or not. And your boundary is about you. I can't control that person from talking about me, but I can remove the access to the content that they're discussing. So there's a way to empower yourself with boundaries of, I don't have to let everybody have access to me all the time.
And they don't have to have a level of, and I say people earn the right to sit at the table with me.
Yes, exactly.
And so that's another thing. And we're going to have to do another episode or later, or people just need to pay us to have you do a masterclass.
Sure.
But this whole thing, everything you just said is so important in your personal, professional life, in your family relationships. And I think if you guys didn't hear her say anything, talking about another issue that you have with one person with another person, it never goes right.
It only makes you more angry because you go interact with them and you're like, I've talked about this. Why haven't they changed? Well, you haven't talked about it with the person who, quote unquote, needs to change. You just get yourself, it's why couples don't last, when they only complain to their friends and they don't ever address it. Oh, he's such a so-and-so, she's such a this, they're so this. Then they go home after venting and offloading and, kind of bashing everybody's partners. They go home to their partner and their partner may be excited to see them and they're all keyed up by how whatever fill in the blank judgment word they are.
Right.
How do you expect your relationship to function if the person who needs to make the change doesn't know that they need to change? That's not fair.
Doesn't know. And I'll say that, and this is where I hold our sisters accountable because of what you described earlier with our emotions and all the things. And then we get into another ball with other women who are dealing with their own emotions and now their energy and their thoughts and all of us get put in a big pot and it's boom. For me, it's boom. And the boom is only pending. It's coming, right?
Yes.
So, and whereas with the man, he's like, what's wrong? Like, and that might be a time when a man might say, because this relationship is so important to him, he might be, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe she's not attracted to me anymore. Those are the times when men go there because they don't have communication on what. And when it comes to communication, like you said with the text message, I find that, and this is probably why, I can function and I'm learning, I'm more schooled in a lot of ways with working with both genders very well. And I've learned, what I've done is literally learn from men. I just love it. When I'm in class and I'm teaching something and I ask a rephrase question for an interview and the guys are like, oh, I'm sorry, but that pay doesn't work for me. And I'm like, okay, guys, this is the time when you have to take a little bit more of the feminine side and help me do it. Like, okay, so this rate, thank you so much for offering me the position. I'm excited about starting, but I have a question for you. With the rate of 29 to 31 that was published, I realized that you're starting me at 29. Is there any way we can talk about me being more on the 31 side? What does that look like? And I say we leave that open-ended because they might say, okay, well, I can go back and talk to and then they come back with 30, or they tell you in 5 months, this is how you get increments of pay and whatever. But the man will just go in there and be like, that doesn't work for me. And in their mind, most of my guys in the room are like, then I don't take the job.
Right.
They're like, but you like the job. You wanted the job. They have everything. It's just the pay's not right. Isn't that worth the conversation? Like, yeah, you're kind of right. But what kind of conversation am I going to have besides
exactly
it doesn't work for me? And that's where to work. But what I love about the masculine, and we both have male and female energies, is that the masculine is so specific, direct. It's unlikely. I haven't heard more. I've seen men, what they do is hold it back because they don't want to lose you. And that would be that attachment thing that comes from what we talked about earlier. But when they do, they just do. It's direct. My thing is, lady, listen, and then also do your best when you need to communicate your needs to be so specific and direct as much as you can, even though you, like you said, you have the emotions.
Right.
Make sure that you don't end the conversation or delivery without being specific and saying exactly what you need and what you desire and how they can support you in making that change and how you will work together with them. Because all the emotion, a lot of men who are more evolved at this day and age, they're supportive and they're wanting to hear and feel and support you in emotion, but they can't do anything with all your emotions.
It's not their responsibility to, and it's not when you come at them with so many feelings, like we as more feelings based, I'm not calling women creatures in a like derogatory way.
We are.
Like, when we're feelings based creatures, like I have a strong masculine energy for sure. I still have a ton of feelings.
And balance them both.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean I don't have feelings. And when I'm bringing all of my feelings to a man, my expectation can't be that he's going to interact with me like a woman would. And that's one of the biggest downfalls of women, is expecting men to behave the way that we do. And then we get frustrated when they don't. And it's like, well, if you just felt this way about me, or if you respected me, or if you loved me, whatever fill in the blank feeling enough, then you would do or comply with what I'm telling you. And they don't work the way that we do. No, it doesn't mean you can't share your emotion, but if you expect a man to change based on you sharing something like a criticism, they don't change the way that we do. It's making a request, and I teach a how to get your needs met masterclass on this specifically, and it's part of like my program too. To ask for a need to be met, you have to appropriate where the need actually is and decipher first if it's a want or a need.
Ooh.
And the way that you and I function, if we were sitting in your room or my room, and you're like, oh, it's a little cold, and the window was open, I would instinctively go shut the window.
Shut the window, yeah.
Guys are like, yeah, it's cold. And we're like,
you're like,
looking at them like, can you get me a blanket? And they're like, yeah, sorry, why are you so angry? And it's like, because I asked you to get me a blanket. And he goes, no, you literally just stated an observation of the temperature of the room. You didn't interpret it. And then we get mad because it's like, well, why can't you read my mind? Which, separate from evolutionary psychology, to go back to psychoanalysis, all of us, every human being holds in them this regressive wish to be interacted with as though we were with our parents' mother, right? Using the language, because they had to meet our needs without us asking. They only rely on deciphering our cries. If that's the foundation for how we expect love, why would we not translate that into our adulthood of, you should know what I need without me having to ask?
So you have to be in conscious awareness. That's not how the real big world works.
You can desire it. And there is a certain point where if you've asked enough, diligently enough, specifically enough, that you get a pattern in place, you don't have to ask anymore because it's now part of your pattern. But the first time, or I give this example a lot, when you're dating and you lived in your family, when you've lived in your family for 20, 30, 40 years, or you lived in the world the way you see it for that long, you hopefully didn't grow up in the household that you're dating the person, like they didn't grow up with you, hopefully. They don't know that. They don't have the same common language and lingo or cultural availability of knowing, quote unquote, that you do. So it's your job, it's everyone's job, to teach kindly and inform your partner what you like and don't like, what works for you and doesn't work for you, what you expect and don't expect a relationship to be, and lead with that. So you're not then feeling and building up this fantasy. It eventually crashes. The reality comes in and you're like, you're not what I expected because I never asked.
No one is.
Because you should have known.
Yes. And know that no one is never what you expect, because you expect them to be your mother.
Yes.
Oops.
Yep.
That's a mic drop.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you a story. I remember I was married to my ex-husband for 17 years. We dated like from the age of 17. I was 17, he was 19. And then when we separated, I was 34. And that's the whole point, I think, why a lot of people are in relationships where they don't want to switch, because you actually train the other person. Like it doesn't matter how rough the relationship gets towards the final years or final month, whatever that looks like for you. There are some basic things that you can count on. My ex-husband knew that well, first of all, I didn't drive anywhere. So I was princess. He drove everywhere we went. And so when we got out of the car, he would get out the car and open the door. It was just what we did.
Yeah.
I never pumped gas in our marriage. He pumped the gas. And then it became towards the end, because I was in school and all that. He would go grocery shop. There were so many things that he did.
Sure.
Well, now the first time I go on a date with the guy, he came to Arizona to visit me, and I will not let him drive me. So I'm driving, and dude gets out the car and makes steps. All right, I'm just sitting there looking at him like, do you know that I never allowed any opportunity for him to become someone in my life because he did not get out the car and open it?
He didn't know to do it intrinsically.
Where do I get off with that?
What's wrong with me?
This is like 7 years ago, but I'm just validating what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because also my ex-husband and I were raised in the same neighborhood, same village, same church. So
lots of
the culture of the men and chivalry and all that it's taught.
Common knowledge.
Basically, whatever I was experiencing in my home, in my family, with my peers, he instinctively knew. I didn't have to say a word. Now I'm in the USA and I'm single at age 34, and it's like,
totally different.
Why don't these men know this? Guess what? I even didn't even want to date anymore. And because I'm like, this is frustrating. And what was frustrating was not something's wrong with these quote unquote American men, or men who live in America. It was that I had an expectation to them to just know. Because all I've ever known is what my ex-husband, I didn't have a whole bunch of relationships. We were dating since I was 17.
Yeah.
Please understand, friends, male and female, no one knows what you want unless you ask for it.
Unless you know what you want. And
then let's just go back there.
Yep.
Because I knew he needs to open the door, but I think it wasn't that. I did not trust that he would be able to meet any of my needs because he didn't know how to open the door. So I had to look deeper at what, once I came into my third base of this is who I am, this is what I value, this is what I don't value, all this is my family and my society and where I've raised, but this is who I am. Now I started to write what I would love to experience. And then I started to do visualization in a relationship, understanding that the only thing I can really expect as I go along the journey of navigating and interacting with men was that they would have the baseline of what I simply just call for this show and growth mindset. Just
are they willing? Willingness is the number one trait to look for.
And are they showing evidence that they have evolved? Yes. And that's why I do flip the script on the show. And I always ask, when was a time in your life that you blah, blah, blah? Because that's the people are like, I just want to know he has character and he has a growth mindset and he's been evolving in his journey. He says evidence, solid proof. Because now that's where I'm at. Because I could be all these wonderful things of a woman, but not in the right practice and a way of nurturing and being for specifically Jonathan or Jude. Because I have these preconceived and it's got to be this way. I had to let all that go. And now it's been a whole lot easier. So recently, I'm going to wrap up, promise. With my partner, I'm like, I was like, okay, so he does not respond a certain way. I know he loves me. I know he does all the right things by me, but I realize that I need him to be more verbally expressive, especially or mainly only when I am verbally expressive about my feelings. I don't need him to say all the things because I can go on. I'm a book. I'm a nerd.
Same.
But I want to hear his version of it in those moments at times, I guess.
Yeah.
So I had to sit and think, how and when is the right time? Well, I realized there wasn't a right time. And so I literally did what you said. I'm so proud of myself. I take kudos because I used I had my emotions and I said, I'm frustrated and I'm not getting this need met. But here's what I need you to do simply. I need you to, and I did it over text because it was easier. And for him, he's a male. He's got directives. And what I did was step back and release any attachment and when I release what I needed, because we built such a great, bond, I'm confident that he will work on it and he will figure it out his way and that I'm open to receive what I requested in his way, but know that he's going to make those adjustments and I will experience what I need anyway.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine after going through being together for 17 years and all that and being in a space where that confidence that my partner, number one, will help me provide for me and also me being to maturely ask for what I want. Again, that's the assertiveness and the confidence. But that assertiveness and confidence means that honestly, it could be a deal breaker in any other relationship. If this need is not being met, then I will have to exit.
Yes.
And that is the boundary.
Yes. Exactly.
And I yield. I let you comment. I let you comment. I yield.
That was, I think, a very, to put it, this doesn't even give the accolade that I think that is deserved, but it's a very eloquent way to put everything that it sounds like you and I especially work on, that you don't have to stay where the relationship isn't serving you. And that doesn't mean, they missed one time, they're cut off. Like, we don't need to be so black or white or split about it. However, if you're noticing a pattern of, I'm diligent, I'm clear, I'm eloquent, I understand my role, their role, I'm making assertive requests, I'm asking at the right time, I'm checking to see if they're even available, like right when they walk in the door from getting home, probably not the best time to ask for them to actually listen. They'll hear it, but hearing is different than listening and comprehension and understanding. It's just like noise going through my eardrum is totally different than my partner has a need. They're telling me the blueprint for how to give it. Sounds like I can win at it. That's what motivates men for the most part. They want to feel like they can win. They don't just want to be criticized by what they're losing at. And like, you're not never doing anything right. It's like, well, here's how you could do it right. And they go, okay. they want to hear that. So when you're collaborating in a relationship, whether that's professionally, but now, the example you just gave personally, I think is pertinent, that you have to give them the space, not too much. We're not talking about 10 years of potential down the drain, but give them the space to make those changes and understand if they can't, it doesn't mean any more or less about who you are as a person. It speaks more to their ability to go inward, to do their own work, unconditioning and reconditioning themselves from their own upbringing and family of origin. They may have grown up in a culture where it was, I can't think of this in a real example, but just to, kind of a fantasy example, if they grew up in a culture where holding the door open made them weak and other men killed them for it, they would never open the door for you because it meant death or it meant social ostracization. So you have to understand what motivates people to want something and what motivates people to give something the other person wants, because that's the way that you can collaborate in a relationship, and understanding that even we will fail ourselves at times and not meet our own expectations.
Absolutely.
Can we learn to extend the same grace without feeling like a doormat to our other relationships? How much room for error? How much maybe percentage, right? Like they miss the mark every so often. I can tolerate that. If it's less often than not that they meet me and more often not they don't, that's not a relationship.
Exactly.
That's where the boundaries piece comes in, is that givers have to have boundaries because takers don't have any. That's why they're takers. So you have to set that boundary from the beginning and try not to go too into the, well, I'll be the perfect version of myself just to get the person in the relationship. You both quote unquote got each other, and now all the behaviors you did that were performative to acquire the relationship leave, which some are required to maintain, but some it's like this wasn't even authentic. The movie The Ugly Truth with Katherine Heigl and Gerard Butler exemplifies this perfectly. She loves the hot neighbor. She changes who she is to get him. They finally date. She can't stand it. She really is in love with Gerard Butler. But even if the movie wasn't that, she exemplifies, like, she has extensions. She's like, you should have served the champagne chilled. I don't like caviar. She criticizes all the stuff that she was being the cool girl about. And he's like, oh, you're right. We'll never work. So you don't want to be so enamored with somebody where you become a fake version of yourself to get the relationship, because eventually that falls away. And you want to make sure you're leading with that authenticity that you usually eventually show the person. And this is also why you find people that you are not attracted to you, because you're your most authentic self around them. And the people you're enamored with, you can't seem to get a date with because they're trying to be this fake version. But you're afraid if you show them the real you, they'll leave. Well, what if they do? Then they're not meant for you. What if they
not?
Do? They stay?
You want them to.
Yes. You don't want to be with somebody who you can't be your full authentic self around. That doesn't mean you have no emotional regulation or boundaries. Like, we all have to present in a way to interact with society. We have a customer service voice, but who you are, the fourth time they go, sorry, I didn't understand you. And you're like, real person. Like, that's sometimes the real you. Like, you have to be aware that we all have the ability to be a dragon, lady or man, and you want your partner to bring out that version of you that you're muting. You want your partner to understand, I don't even want you to get to the point of being that frustrated with me. What can I do to meet you? And if they can't meet you for whatever, they're focused on their career, which is usually a phase of development thing for men, like that you are there, but you're not the main priority. They're building this empire to then bring you in.
Oh my gosh.
Communicate with me.
This is a whole other episode, because a lot of us women do not understand that.
Yes.
That's a whole lesson to teach. I'm so glad you're teaching it too.
Glad to do it. Yeah.
Because we come into a man's world and realize that we say he's fake, but he's not. He's pursued you because he wants you in his life.
Yes.
And so he's made time out of his world and his schedule to bring you into his world.
When the pursuit is over, and he has a different version, but that's still who he is.
Who he is.
Yes.
However, you said it exactly, that the way I believe, God, forgive me, God, and I say forgive me if you're offended, forgive me in advance. I didn't mean to offend you. The way God created men is, we talk about the hunter-gatherer thing, and we make it about, for him to chase. And this is why we find a lot of females, we do all this extra stuff like Katherine Heigl did to bring them in.
Peacocking,
the peacocking syndrome, I call it. And you don't realize that even you are doing the dance as he you might say, quote unquote, but we want the man who provides, who's ambitious, who works hard, who's an entrepreneur maybe, or high level businessman, whatever. We want a man that can provide.
Yeah.
Because innately, we're created for that. To get the provision. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's how we go about it. Exactly. But not understanding that the man prioritizes the provision.
Right.
It's so important to him. So we are his entire universe for the first 3 to 6 months. And then we're home. He got us. He locked us in. Baby girl, he's going out to conquer and bring you wild meat to cook. We have not, one of my friends, Dr. Slava, we just aired her episode. She was sweet talking about how while there's so much evolution, we have not naturally, physically, not evolved. We've evolved in our thinking and our creativity and all that stuff, but not physically and our intrinsically or our DNA or the way our body worked and all. None of that has evolved. We're still the same as the cavemen and women. And please understand that in everyday function, that's where we function until we come into self-awareness, until we put in work and we take responsibility for what we do. We still are functioning in a world that's way ahead of our actual human self.
Yeah, you have to override the instinct.
That's where that man will go back. And so we have all this conflict because and I love that you've solved the mystery, and I hope everyone's caught it. We still want our mother. We still want our mother. And that is why it's so important to become assertive, to become confident, self-aware, connecting with your true values, core beliefs, knowing your purpose. Because then as a woman, you will not be sitting there flippant with anger and frustration because he's busy doing him. It's funny because my ex-husband, he could go out and have a blast with his guys every weekend and forget about going on a date with me. And we were married for 10 years. No, you'd be like, well, that's so bad of him. Why wasn't I doing something else?
But
he needed to do that. And when I was younger back then, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I thought he's supposed to do some of that and do some of it.
But now that we're married, you should be home.
Doing whatever we want to do.
Right. It's that we call it the couple state of mind where there's almost this fusion. And I think this would, if you would like, this could, like the evolution for relationships and all that could be a whole other episode, that like we expect them to be in this, swimming in this all the time. Like now we're in us, but in a true healthy interdependent relationship, I have my own life, you have your own life. We cross paths with probably great frequency, especially if we have children, and we don't lose sense of ourselves. So all the more reason why finding and loving and liking and, knowing really at the base who you are, you won't lose yourself in relationship. It's natural in the beginning when we're both enamored with each other, but once things cool down, we get through, the phases of relationship. We overcome the power struggle. We're committed. We're in this.
Yes.
Am I? What could I do while he's out with his friends doing that? As long as he's being respectful to the marriage, I can also go out with my friends. I could pick up a hobby. I could get a second degree or whatever it is. Like there's so much more we could fulfill our lives with, but we're so hardwired to be like, but now that we're in a relationship, we should do everything that relationship people do. And it's like, but what if you're not more fulfilled to do the relationship stuff? If you are out scheduling your life like you did when you're single, I have dinner with friends this night. A date on Saturday works for me, babe. Does that work for you? We lose sight of that in a marriage because we get familiar and we get complacent for the most part. You both have to still pursue each other, not in the same way that you have to like get them, I have to obtain them, but like I want to maintain. The first pursuit is to obtain. The second pursuit that's lifelong is to maintain.
And that's where we struggle because it's maintaining me, my identity, who I am,
and a relationship at the same time,
which also has its own identity.
Exactly.
And that you're building and creating, and those terms of conditions are to be negotiated in the beginning and be negotiated regularly.
And when you have kids, if you move, if one person wants to pursue a different career, if they want to move locations, all of that is, it's up for renegotiation, but we operate on, the Gottmans call them love maps. We operate on 5, 10, 15-year-old love maps. It's the same thing that parents do with us when we go over and we're like 30 and they're like, I made you whatever fish. It's like, Mom, I haven't liked that since I was 6. But then they'll
I'm
go, well, you
vegan.
loved it when you were a kid. It's like,
Yes,
I'm not 6 anymore.
exactly.
Can we update this map that I'm like an adult with my own consciousness? And now, I'm vegan. Like,
Yes. I remember getting into an argument with my immediate family about, well, the Bible it's an important book, and it's one of my favorite books, but there's other books that takes what's in the Bible to a deeper level that is more functional for me.
Sure.
And they could not believe that, and I struggled to bring it out. That's exactly how I said. I struggled to bring out, well, it's not the most important book. And they popped the flipped, because it's like, what on earth is wrong with you that the Bible is not the most important book? I'm like, okay, first of all, King James version, this version, that version. Haven't you seen there are many versions of the Bible for a reason?
Correct.
Because someone wrote
interpretations.
It. And so other people wrote just one whole book on one scripture verse that doesn't even have anything to do with biblical, but it's all science and all the other things that we don't talk about in church that helps me. This is who I am. I like it. And I said, for today.
Because you can change, they could also change. And that's where I think another important note, when we were talking earlier about the watching your kids essentially become who either you never got to be, or act or behave in a way that is unfamiliar to you as the parent. You either face it when they're young and they're doing that and you encourage it, that individuation and autonomy, or you don't allow that to happen, and then you have a strained relationship with them in adulthood, and then you ultimately have to face it when they go to therapy and come back at you with, here's all the ways that we didn't have a healthy relationship growing up. You can't escape it. As a parent, you can't escape your child becoming who they're meant to be. And the only way I think some parents escape it is if, God forbid, they pass away and they don't get to see their child grow up into an adulthood. And that's not escape, meaning like they chose it for some. It's just like that naturally happened. That's really the only exception. Like you will face it. You either encourage it and allow it and be witness to it while they're growing up, and they include you in their life when they're an adult because you've allowed them to become that adult, or there's a cutoff. And there's a break and a rupture in the relationship because I now feel I have to defend who I am against my family, the most antithetical defense that I would ever be faced with. I don't want to prove you. And then and my favorite, who raised you? You. Literally, you raised me.
And
who else raised me? Yes. You either raised me to be, I wanted to be like you and you encouraged me, or you raised me to never want to be like you because you never let me be myself.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny that you said that. I remember having a conversation with my mom and her saying, I don't even know you anymore. And I was like, well,
I know me.
You created this monster. Yeah. Remember, you told me I could be all that I want to be.
But that I want you to be.
That's it. That's the thing. She said you could be all that you want to be, but that's
subtext for that I'll allow.
Exactly.
That's that part silent.
Yeah. What I learned is exactly that. There, I'm like, And you taught me, and it's like, it's funny because you would be surprised that a lot of the values and morals or how I navigate life really comes from my mother. And she doesn't realize I keep telling her, you created the monster that I am. Yeah. So if I'm scary to you, it's your fault. And that's just me being facetious and playing with her anyway. But it's true because my mother was raised in a time and era where she didn't have the opportunity to think for herself. Even to getting married was kind of, forced on her at the time. She didn't choose. It's like, you got to get married. You can't talk to him and not get married. She got married. So there's a totally different era, but she gave us the freedom. And this is one thing, everyone was talking about dating. I go back and even my students are fascinated how I talk. A lot comes out in how we date and how and who we marry and when we marry and what that looks like. Yeah. And for me, it does, because that's where everything's really tested. A lot of growth happens in our lives, a lot of evolution, becoming a parent and being in an intimate relationship. And so I said, to her, I said, when you told me that it was okay if I liked a guy when I was 14, 15, he can come around, and you let all of us youths have a space where you and other adults monitored our interaction and had done fun things with us. And we knew that, oh, she liked that one, he likes, and they have a crush on each other. And you let us do that. So that was you giving the next generation something you didn't have, to where none of us married each other. And none of us ever got sexually involved with each other. And whatever hormones was kicking at that time, we had a safe place to just be friends and be young people that enjoyed and learned and grew and also build together. And I was like, that's you all. She was, for me, liberal, non-conventional, all the things that was non-traditional to what our culture was. And so she has this one child who literally just took all that and created lessons and courses and studied and understood the psychology and everything behind it to make it, to help reinforce it in society. So I credit my mom for that. But again, with the explanation that I still in my adult life had to create and understand my detachment, keeping true to what was true for me and detaching from what was hers and not mine, while also understanding the value of what was imparted into me and being able to use it effectively. Such a song and dance, but that's the work. That's the work, friends. If you're listening, I said all that to say that's the work, because we're not telling you that your parents were all wrong and bad. No. You're messed up. We're telling you, you need to get in the space of I love to use the word alignment with who you are, what you believe, and how you're going to express yourself in this chapter, in the next, and in the next, because it changes, it evolves, and just be kind and gentle, get the guidance, get therapy. Oh my gosh, this has been so great. Y'all gonna have to pay, because we probably have 2 or 3 episodes, which is wonderful. We're gonna dissect it and break it into parts, and then have another episode with Talia. Talia, let's play Flip the Script with you.
Okay.
Tell us, when in your journey, you had to make this ultimate mindset shift into confidence and assertiveness. What did that look like for you?
Oh, really go into the pain points here. Two main points stand out for me. Like you mentioned in the beginning of the episode, I was always the confident child, which I think was threatening to my peers, and it was taken away from me when I got bullied in middle school, which is also when I started therapy because of that. So I not only knew the value and the feeling of being confident and assertive, I knew what it was like when other people felt threatened by it, wanted to take it away from me, had to overcome that, come out the other side of it, and overcome a pretty rough adolescence, to be honest, even into early college, because I overcorrected. So it went from like, oh, you should be like Talia growing up, got bullied, went through a lot, and they'd be like, oh, stay away from her. So I felt ostracized. Then I had to overcorrect that, re-find out who I was even stronger. And then I think the second time around that I'm like memorably that I had to feel that way was in my early 20s, individuating from my family system. We're still close. We have a much healthier relationship now that I'm not, that we're not enmeshed. But that was a huge, what I speak about today, and like all of this is also from personal experience, it was a huge shift in division. I've heard that from, I don't even know you, I don't even this, I didn't raise you this way. And I said, true, you didn't raise me to be this exactly, but you raised me to understand this is exactly who I needed to be. And I think that's the difference. Ooh, and now we can have a much more respectful relationship, because I'll wrap on this, like the book, The Courage to Be This, like talks about there's horizontal relationships and vertical relationships. There's always a hierarchy, no matter what system you're in. When you're growing up, it's a vertical relationship. Your parent should be ideally in a healthy family system, more in the control leadership role, and the child should not be. In toxic or enmeshed family systems, things are lopsided. The kid's in control. No parent is. They don't, like, it's unhealthy, and so you don't know where you fit in. So when you're learning that, and when I learned that in my early 20s, like, who am I not, essentially, when you're learning that, it matters for who you end up becoming, because you aren't in that, and you aren't in that hierarchical relationship anymore. You're now horizontal. We're both adults. We both have children. We both have families. Like, we have a level playing field now. Simply because you are my parent now at this age, simply because you are my parent, and this is a unconventional and probably controversial take to have, as much family therapy as I've studied and known, though, this is probably the healthiest way for us to all maintain some sort of relationship. I don't owe you.
No,
I've never owed you, and I don't owe you now. And if I'm doing things differently than how you would have expected, that's your job to process. I'm not actively disrespectful. I'm not actively doing any of the stuff to like stick it to them.
Yes.
I'm different. You are different. I am different.
And I really like me.
Exist. Yes. Yeah, and I
no,
like for you to know me.
You have described my exact approach to.
I'd like for you to know me as an adult. I'd like for the opportunity for us to have another relationship phase 2 where we're both adults with families and children. And it's going to look different, obviously. And there's some deference given because they're my parents. But overall, that doesn't limit me. When I'm making decisions, I don't think, oh my gosh, are my parents going to like this?
Trust me, a lot of us don't realize subconsciously.
We are.
We do that well into adulthood for a long time. Even
I can't date somebody like that.
Married to.
Yep. Well, why? Well, because my parents would, and they're like literally as it's coming out of their mouth, like my parents would disown me. Ew, I didn't mean to say that. Like, oh, and I'm like, yep.
I'm glad you heard it because pay attention and watch. That was the thing I looked at a lot, and it wasn't what I would say it was great for. I was not pointing fingers, but I found the tracks of how much of what decisions I made in my early life, and it's one of my major keynotes about how. And I have a book I've written that I haven't published, just to Reclaim Your Crown, where I talk about how we lose ourselves little by little. It's like dance. Oh, you're a better singer than your dancer, but I want to dance. You're a better singer than a dancer, so I'm going to pay for you to go to singing lessons. These little things.
I'll tell you who you are. Yeah.
Yes, and we don't realize that it started to create, and then we adapt to it because it depends. Because there's that child who's violently, no, I am not going to do what you say. And now their whole life becomes about being everything that my parents or the other one who's like, I gotta do it because I want to get along.
I must comply. Yeah. The dutiful.
Either way, parents are in control. Yeah. Either way,
it's like I'm doing it to spite them. Who really gets spited? Whatever. Who really is like the one that ends up being spited in the end? Like it's usually you. If you're doing something to. And then one of my other favorite mentors, he's like, traditions are peer pressure from dead people. It's true. Like some traditions do not need to be held anymore, and some traditions belong.
Like I don't really care for all the holidays. I don't care about. I'm sorry, and I say it bluntly. I like the holiday for the day off from any kind of work, which I hardly ever take because that day doesn't work for me.
Exactly.
And so over time, and then being a single woman with no children or a dog or a rabbit, I do not have to do Christmas. I do Christmas differently if I want to at all.
Exactly.
And that can be the tradition. It's like, well, I'm like, no. We always did because I was always going along.
But I participated.
Yes, I participated. But right now, I am sure that this time I don't want to participate. No promises. And if I am I'm negotiating my participation. I just want to bring a casserole. I just want to have dinner with you guys. I don't want to spend the whole weekend in a cabin somewhere. I'd rather be in the bed where I pay the mortgage and the rent. And I'm never there.
This works for me. And that's where there's such a threat, I think, to the family system. What's really being said when they go, well, we always did this. What are you doing?
Pressure from dead people.
Are we going to still have a relationship if we don't have all these traditions connecting us? What quality of relationship will I have with my children when they're adults if it was only based off of we do things this way because we've always done it this way without question? Like, and that's where that response deep down and subconsciously comes from. I feel that there's a threat to my family system, or that my child will individuate and I will be abandoned by them. And we don't talk about this a lot, that you can envy your children or fear abandonment from your own children if you haven't done your inner work. What happens if they don't want to come to Christmas? It doesn't. And this is the case even if you made it the most pageantry level Christmas and there was all these ornate touches, your child could still grow up and choose not that you did anything wrong. I want something else. Okay, can you be curious?
I want to be in Mexico with mimosas. I'm sorry.
I want to do it that way. So
I want sun, sand, and sea.
Can your parents then go, non-traditional, not what I would be used to, but because, right, this is where the whole goal versus relationship gas pedal, but because my relationship with you matters more than the tradition of Christmas, can I join you in Mexico? Right? There's a shift now that goes from the upper generation to the younger generation of, can I join you?
Right.
Can I join you in your tradition? You did
your tradition,
your upbringing.
Can I?
Yeah, exactly.
And the point is, it's really, that's the thing. It's like, oh my God, what are we becoming? We don't have our family anymore. It's like, and what you've said throughout the podcast, I understand how you might be feeling, but that's your feelings. Mm-hmm. And that's the hardest part of this journey of assertiveness, confidence, and setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Is when the most quote unquote important relationships to you are being completely impacted. And I'm going to tell our viewers and listeners that it will.
Yes.
I put it on the podcast.
Don't expect it to stay the same. That's the point of change.
And I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be easy. And I'm not going to tell you it won't hurt. And I'm not going to tell you that there's a chance you might not have those relationships. Some of them will not survive. Mm-hmm. But trust me, you will be so free and so happy. That what I found is that those individuals that always, they love your confidence and your assertion and your purpose-driven way of living, being, and doing, and they want a relationship with you. Your job is to leave room open. Don't shut the door. You shut the door on the toxicity. You shut the door on the mind stuff. But what you don't do is shut the door in a relationship. Leave the door open that there is a time and space where those relationships may be rebuilt. But I will tell you, call it from scratch for your own good, and advise and share. I want to see you and I want to hang out with you. I want to spend time with you. You're my mom, you're my dad, you're my friend, whatever that is. However, remember that these are things that we are not going to do or talk about, and you can't change in me. Do we have that capiche? Right. Good. So you want to go to Taco Bell this weekend? I mean, I'm not going to Taco Bell. Just go to drive if I'm going, but we're not. But if that's it, because sometimes you're used to in this new chapter of life eating at a 5-star restaurant, right? And it makes them uncomfortable. You can negotiate those terms because that's not your boundary. You have to give something too, right? But you don't have to override your needs and your value system to be in relationship with anyone. Anytime you're doing that, you're playing not. You're on the sidelines of your own life. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's what we give you guys. So Talia told us the next big thing. Talia, what is success for you?
Ooh, success for me is when I have the feeling that I've accomplished pretty much everything I've set out to. Mm-hmm. I'm proud of what that does for my life on a daily basis and my accomplishments, and that there isn't necessarily that feeling of like striving anymore. Not to say I don't have more on the horizon for myself, but my definition of success is like I set it out to what I wanted to do. I accomplished everything I wanted to do, and now anything else is like the cherry on top. That's
right. I love that. All the bonuses. Mm-hmm. I love that. And we love hearing the different versions of how we all just have a different view. Because one of the things, the key to the podcast, the mindset is the key to success. And so a lot of us don't know what success is truly for us. And that's what we're encouraging here is that mindset success will mean something different to everyone. And that's okay. Just figure out what yours is. Yeah. And finally, what's your next big goal or project? And what kind of mindset you think is required to achieve that?
I know the mindset required to achieve it is more self-belief and self-assuredness. And the reason I say that is because my next project is working on actually promoting and selling the course that I've created that encapsulates much of what we've talked about today. Yes, and it will require me overcoming that icky feeling of selling to someone, because I don't like, this comes from myself, I don't like feeling sold to when it's a product I don't want. I don't like being forced or pushed to be out of alignment, like you said. Right. So I'm figuring out my way, because therapists don't sell. You contact us because you have a need, you know what we do, and we provide the space for you to have that need met, and there's a structure and a system. It's much different. We don't go, we can put a Google ad out for like, if you Google this and you're struggling with it, it might feed you to our website, but we can't force you to come in.
Right.
I'm working on my own mindset around that, like selling is like teaching. Selling is something that isn't forcing somebody to make a decision. It's
Making
inviting
sure
them.
they knew what their
Yeah,
options are.
yeah. If you've ever been curious about this and you like the way that I talk about it, here is a product for you to purchase and to learn from. So that's my next mission, is to get everything out that I've talked about today that's in the course that I've built, actually marketed and having people join it.
And being so comfortable to actually offer it as a sale.
Yes.
Well, and it is because people have to exchange cash to be access it. And again, with I'm not so going into the mindset disruption piece, and because there's a lot of us who suffer with this, especially in this personal professional development sphere, where we do have the answers that people need. And so my new thing is what has become real for me in my journey of developing the same mindset you did, is there's no way for me to get this to as many people as possible on this planet if I didn't have help to cover the cost.
Exactly.
And there's no way I can do the work if I was not provided for, so I can continue to do the work.
Yes.
And so that was my first, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So I have to tell you, here's what I've got. You probably didn't know you needed, but here's why. And I've got to do a good job getting that to you, understand?
Yeah.
And now here is it. It's priceless. It's my work. Because I'm confident enough to tell you it's priceless. I've put blood, sweat, and tears and years into this. And
my life's work. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so you get to have it all in your hand.
Yeah.
By exchanging the currency that we all know, which is money.
Yeah.
For it. And if that's how I talk myself through.
That's helpful. Thank you. I will go back and listen to this myself for coaching.
And then I become comfortable. It's like, okay, so here's it. Gonna change everything for you. It's game changer for you. And I believe that about almost everything anybody works on and they've done and they put it. It might not be for everyone. Like you said, you like the way I talk about it. Because that's the thing. You like me, you trust me, you trust the work I've done, the credentials, you trust my own. I've been so vulnerable and authentic with you, share my own journey. And you feel connected to that, then you get to have it. You get to have it, and I get to be able to further my work by you paying me.
Yeah.
Done.
That's great.
I love it.
I'm going to keep that one. Thank you. Thank you. This has been awesome.
Thank you. That's what we learn from each other.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, this has been so wonderful. I'm glad that we have already 3 episodes down. I'm pretty sure we're going to just add this into a special series of you and I going to do. But Talia, before we go into your products and services, because we have to, I looked at your courses and I love what you're teaching. I looked at the content of it. Yep. So we definitely want our viewers and listeners who are connecting with your message and your teaching and your methodologies to be able to connect and find that with you. So we'll talk about that. But before we do that, I love to give all our guests a moment, we call it Mindset Bites to go, where you just speak into the camera. I'll step away, I'll turn my mic off and the video off, where you just speak into, as if this was your last time you had to give us something to walk away with. If you knew this was your last time to say something to the world, what would you say to them? So I'm going to yield and let you have a moment to do that.
Okay. Wow, that's a very impactful question. As for my last time to give wisdom, I would say that who you will meet on the other side of what can be an incredibly scary journey that takes you to depths you may not have ever imagined that you could meet in yourself is one of the most worthwhile explorations you could ever do. And again, who you will meet on the other side is someone that you will love, that you will have befriended, that you will be proud of and want to share with the world. And the journey that you go on to find that person will require changes in beliefs, it will require changes in relationships, and it will require a responsibility and a stewardship of who you know yourself to be, bringing them into the world. And it's okay to need a break from that at times. It's okay to get tired. It's okay to be afraid. And it's okay to ask for help. And I think that is one of the biggest takeaways I would like people, if this were the last time I was ever giving advice, it's okay to ask for help And it's also okay to not take everybody's advice, especially if you didn't ask for it. And it's okay that you will be a different person on the other side of this self-discovery journey, because that's the point. It's the point to change who you are, integrate what you didn't know, what you weren't taught, and to then give that to others. That's what I would say.
Wow, that is so profound. I love it. I mean, the challenge is like, which one? Like, which one am I going to say? Perfect. Thank you so much, Talia. So let's talk about what you have to offer and how everyone can connect with you, and what are some of the products and services you have. And
Sure.
So we can dive in. Of course, you all know it's always wherever you're listening or watching this, you'll see contact her website and all her things. And she has a freebie for you. You can tell us about that too. So give us the goods.
Yeah, definitely. So I start with, it's called a life quiz or a guide quiz. I like interactive quiz. It helps people like stay drawn into the content, because it's like a projective test in a way. They're like putting themselves into it. So if you don't know where to start with my work, then you'll take the quiz and it spits you out results of what products that I have to offer. So I think it also helps kind of do the selling for me, which makes my life easier and more comfortable. And then the products that I have to offer, I have a newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter. It's honestly, I'm writing a book behind the scenes. So each of them is like a chapter, really. It's like a very lengthy newsletter. And it includes resources at times. It includes other quizzes, other articles. I'm a big fan of giving all the information I can to people. My life's goal is that people are better, whether I'm paid for it or not, aside. Like, the newsletter is the most important part of that. And then they get notifications of when my podcasts launch. I had 3. One of them wrapped at the beginning of the year after 5 years. So now I have 2 active podcasts, but that one has over 100 episodes you can go back and listen to. That's the Couples Guide podcast, where we talk about dating, relationships, couples therapy, and everything in between. It's phenomenal.
Yes.
The other 2 I have now, one of them is Between Two Clinicians. Myself and another co-host cover like hot takes on hot topics, like I had a crush on my therapist, or what happens if I'm being triangulation in my family system or triangulated. So we cover topics that we see either on Reddit or in our offices that we see frequently enough that would be worthwhile of a podcast episode. And then I have Heal Through Humor, where I interview other guests. I love comedy, obviously, and laughing. And I think it's one of the best ways to heal. If you're able to laugh at something that's an otherwise serious or life-changing topic, like, you've done the work. Like, if you can frame it like that. So I interview like forensic psychologists about what it's like to work with serial killers in prison. I've worked with other psychoanalysts. I'm going to love this. So all walks of life. I did not remember you had a podcast. Yeah, awesome. all different types of specializations, so you can consume that. And then the other products I have are a guide on how to rewire your subconscious beliefs, which is the foundation for all that I offer. So that's like my intro offer if people want to purchase that. And then I also have a course called Rewire Your Relationships. It takes you, much like we did on this podcast, from childhood all the way to adulthood. You better understand who you are, why you pick the people you pick, why you settle for what you settle for, where your feelings of feeling either too much or not enough come from. You learn emotional regulation skills. It's not therapy, but if you were to take it, it would shave off at least a couple of years of therapy, and it gives you an understanding to go into the office of like, here's where I messed up, please help me, or like, here's where I'm strong, make me get better.
I love that.
So it does the work for you. It's based off of over 15 of my own years of work and research and trainings, and it's all in one place. So people could, you can spend hours searching on Google and TikTok for all of this. Why bother? It's all in one convenient place. I'm well trained. I have a lot of training and degrees, so may as well learn from somebody who's, been there personally and professionally. And then I also offer therapy to anyone in the state of California. If you want to come in person, I'm in Southern California. Virtually, though, anywhere in the state of California, and then anywhere in the world, I offer coaching either on business growth, where my motto is the way to increase your net worth is to increase your self-worth. And then in my life and relationship coaching, I help people who either are struggling with, I have everything that I've ever wanted, but no one to share it with, or I don't know who I am as a person. I know where I want to get, but here's where I'm at, and they need help closing the gap. So that is all that I have to offer.
Whoa, she takes care of us in full cycle. And she has an offer again, that you can start with, and I'm telling you guys, revolutionary. Before I, fully, I've always been working in personal professional development space, but fully build my own practice and things like that, making courses. I'm a person who bought courses. It's something that a lot of us underestimate and then end up working with these individuals in coaching or whatever. And I'm telling you, when I saw Talia's course, I thought about because I remember, and I always talk about this, when I was going through divorce, I could not afford therapy. I needed it to help me, not just to deal, because when you get to something like a divorce, it's not just something that just happened like the year before or that moment when you decide we're going to go our separate ways or whatever happens. It's a lot of the dysfunction, I would say, that comes from both individuals, and everybody knows I don't care what we're coaching about. I don't care if I'm coaching an executive, a prime minister, a government, I don't care, or a man who drives the waste management trucks. I can find the track right back to childhood. Okay. Yep. So when two people end up in divorce or you end up whatever, that you need to do some work because you got there. The question you ask is, how do I get here? If you go into that whole rewiring, we talk about the mindset is key to your success. We talk about rewiring your brain, rewiring neurons, all the ones. Talia has covered that. I'm not selling you anything. I have looked at it and I am going to purchase it just for myself because it helps me. I know a lot of things. I've studied, I'm NLP, all this stuff I've done, hypnotherapy, all that stuff, certifications. I'm like Talia, I'm a big nerd, and I literally study a lot of things, not because I even use it in my work. I use it for myself and I want to know. Yeah. But she's put it in there. And so growth is so important. So even if you feel like you've gone through years of therapy, get the stuff that she has offered, even if it's just a course, and see where you're at, because there's always more work to do, no matter how far along the journey is. You can always go back and, I say, rearrange puzzle pieces from the past to help you now do better and get better results. Because here's the thing, as coaches, we're here for results for you. Life, career, love, business. I'm going to quote you every 100 times because we talk about your net worth is equivalent to your net worth. But we don't get to networking effectively if we're not self-worthing effectively.
Exactly.
I mean, y'all gonna have a ball with this, but we dropped heavy gems. And self-worth requires self-awareness, self-responsibility, and self-work.
Yes.
Do the work.
100% do the work.
Do the work. Connect with Talia. Do the work. Tell us social media handles, website, even though some people are listening and driving and some people are audible. I need to see it. It's in the description, guys. But she's telling us.
Yeah, so on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, it's all at my name, Talia Bombola, spelled TaliaBombola. And then my website for coaching is taliabombola.com. My website for therapy is therapywithtalia.com.
I love it. And I love the way you say your name. I say your name Talia because of my Guyanese accent. But thank you so much.
Thank you
for being here. We've got 3 powerful episodes. If you stumble on this one, go back and get the next 2. Go to Talia's website or get her podcast. I'm a podcast junkie. So I'm going to be hooked on hot topics a lot.
Awesome.
I mean, that one sounds like the biggest one for me. Thank you so much for being here and for being such a light in the world. I am honestly totally certain that you will be one of our leading voices here in the next, chapter of the world. Thank you. Really bringing change. And as often as I'm, you all know, I have special topics that are really, really big part of me. And when someone stands so expertly in it, I don't ever let them go. I don't feel like I let any of my guests go. Maybe I have attachment issues, but I have specific ones that come on the show that I know that the journey continues with us. So you guys will hear from her, not just on the podcast, but tap in. And thank you again, Talia. Kiss your beautiful girl. I met her virtually. Yes. Adorable. And tell her I said, thanks for being patient while we pick on mommy's brain and just
I will.
Yes, we could.
She'll be very, very understanding. She knows.
Absolutely, guys. Don't forget to check out Talia's website and her work. We are so happy that you tuned in with us and you've learned and grown, evolved. Listen to this as many times. Take it like medicine and just go get the course. Go get the course. Rewire your heart, rewire your mindset, and just be successful being you. And Talia, again, love, light, peace, and blessings, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right, guys. Stay empowered. Keep mastering your mindset. Bye now.
We hope you enjoyed this empowering two-part episode of Mindset Mastery Moments with Dr. Alisa Whyte and Talia Bombola. Remember, building confidence and setting boundaries are lifelong skills that can transform every area of your life. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to Mindset Mastery Moments for more powerful insights, and check the episode notes for links to connect with Talia and explore her resources. Until next time, keep mastering your mindset.